tell you a little bit about Arif. So glad that our AI Ninja is here, talking about the role of AI in automation strategy. So the abstract for his speech is a look at how combining AI with more traditional automation technologies can unlock more and greater business values. Arif, who's he? Well, he has a passion for combining the agile delivery model with RPA and AI to solve real business problems. It's one of the reasons we like presenters like that. Effectively and quickly, he's a member of the Institute for RPA and AI. He has his MSCI in computer science from University College London, specializing in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I think we're in really good hands. Please join me in welcoming Arif. And you've got 20 minutes. Enjoy, Arif.
Thank you. Can everyone see the screen okay? The first thing I want to check.
Yep, seems to be.
Yeah, you can see PowerPoint. Great. Okay, so I'm going to be completely opposite to the last talk, and I'm gone in quite slide heavy here. So hopefully this will still work out okay. So to start with, I guess is the why should you listen to me and a little bit about my background. So actually, the first thing I'd like to do, because we're at a virtual event and we can't network in person, is if you're on LinkedIn, if you can grab your phones, and then in LinkedIn, you may or may not have seen next to the little search icon, there is a little QR code, and if you click that and scan the QR code on the screen, you can connect to me on LinkedIn if you are not already connected. There you go. I can see people doing that. It's great with cameras on as well. Cool. So let me give you a bit of my background. So yeah, as Richard mentioned, I've got a combination of two areas really. So I've got the pragmatic world of working in companies. I think Deutsche Bank was probably one of my most challenging, an industry, financial services, investment banking, you're regulated by the BaFin, quite a risk-averse organization. So I got a real feel for how do you practically take technology that may be very innovative and cool and exciting and put it into a world that's highly regulated. Prior to that and post that, my stint in banking, I had a background in AI. My degree was in computer science with a specialization in AI. Some would say I was in AI before AI was cool. So this was back in 2004. And there were struggles that's been documented. I think the analysts call it the AI winter. So the data wasn't, big data didn't exist. The internet wasn't really there. The cloud wasn't a thing. It just wasn't the right time for AI. So that was when I did my stint in banking. But then a few years ago, AI became a hot topic again. I moved into consultancy, and whilst there, I got involved in the area of R&D. And that was really when AI became a big deal. So I headed up a AI machine learning practice at Capco, which is the consultancy I was at before. And whilst there, really, I kind of got an appreciation for where people were trying to apply AI. RPA for me, however, was this screen scraping, automated testing technology. That was how I'd classified it in my mind. And it was only in the kind of couple of years ago, 2 years ago today almost, when I saw that UiPath had got a really large investment, 220 million investment. I think it was actually around October 2017, 2018 it would have been. So that investment really made me stop and think as to why is a multi-million investment taking place in an RPA company, which I thought was quite a basic technology. And that really made me kind of dig in further. And during the interview process and discussion with UiPath around roles I had, I found that they were actually applying AI in a very interesting way, both into their core product and also combining third parties and external systems to the product to make it more valuable. And that's really what I want to kind of cover today and give you some examples of. So to start with, just in case anyone's not familiar with RPA, what robotic process automation is, and I'm going to do this quickly, is it's really about simulating the user clicks effectively. So just like a user would log into an application and via the user interface, click through the various options, that is what RPA in its simplest form is trying to do. And in terms of the benefits you get from that, it's the things around, the fact it's automated, fewer errors, improve compliance, and hopefully improve customer experience as well. And in terms of the typical tasks that we talk about with our robots, some examples of what they can do: they can connect into different applications, they can move files around, they can read emails. So a typical process would often be looking at a mailbox, looking for a specific type of email when it comes in, downloading the attachments, maybe they're Excel sheets, maybe it's a sales information you have, capturing that information and then maybe typing it into an end system like an SAP or some other back office platform. Those are some of the kind of key kind of things that the robots would do. Quite limited in some senses, but you'll be amazed how many business processes are out there in the world that are very, very manual and that are often, repetitive and often don't require that much intelligence. They're often going through the same sequence multiple times, and they're really good candidates for this kind of automation. What I wanted to get onto then was like where does AI fit and with RPA? And I think anyone who tries to draw a kind of a Venn diagram of circles and or trying to clearly define these things, you really get tripped up a little bit. And that's because AI is such a broad umbrella term, really, and automation in itself can be so broad. So I like to think of it and explain it best as a spectrum, really. So on the left-hand side, we're talking about things like macros and scripts where you've got some level of automation, but it's very specific, it's very narrow, it's for a specific target application or use case. And as you move on this diagram from left to right, you start to get into more of the intelligence. So RPA is also very much rules-based. One of the traditional questions you ask yourself about whether this process is a good candidate or not is, can I define what I need to do in a set of rules? Things that require human judgment have traditionally not been part of the RPA kind of remit. We've normally focused on just those that are a set of rules or a sequence of steps. Of course, you can have flow in their decisioning, if this, do that, but essentially it's limited in that sense. It's set of rules. And as we move on this spectrum to the right-hand side, you see we start going into virtual assistants and then more of the general intelligence on the extreme right. Now, on the extreme right, it is a bit conceptual. It's obviously every time I do this presentation, it probably is becoming less conceptual and more real. But that is where you've got people like Google DeepMind trying to have a more general intelligence, or maybe an IBM Watson, where no matter what the problem, this system will try and have a go at doing, helping you in an intelligent way. And to get to that as a bridge, we have things like virtual assistants, where we're used to in our everyday in terms of personal assistants like Alexa and Google that we may talk to and get information from. And what's really happening to the RPA industry is we're on a trajectory up this spectrum, really moving toward the right-hand side. So both through adding enhancements in our core products and also integrating third parties, we're starting to tackle challenges more on the right-hand side. And what happens then is when you're able to do that, you're able to look at problems that you couldn't do with just purely your rules-based reasoning. You're able to tackle things that can have more business value as well. And for me as well, I see at the moment, often processes when they're being automated in this way, they're quite disjointed traditionally. So there'll be a bit that does require human judgment or interaction with the system you can't automate. And there'll be bits where you need validation, approvals, etc. So traditionally, these systems, these RPA systems have sort of had to do that in pieces. You have an automated bit and then you stop maybe for some human input. Then there's a bit more automated. And what I'm starting to see is this, and it was touched on in the talk earlier in the comments, this augmentation or this collaboration between your robotics and your AI and the human users. It's becoming more and more seamless, if you like. It's becoming more productive. The robot can carry on working its way through a queue of items. When it needs some input from a user, it can put its hand up, it can flag it, it can put an item on a queue for a human to validate while it can get on with the next task. So it allows you to kind of just tackle more problems and do them in a more seamless way. So where is AI required, really? So what I've found is RPA is useful up to a point, but you start to hit limitations in terms of what you can automate. And we talked about some of these earlier as well. So for example, if I'm dealing with some uncertainty, if the supply chain area, for example, is a key one. If I'm trying to work out what my inventory will look like, what I need to order, how much stock levels I have, there is an element of uncertainty. And that is something where your robots will struggle. And this is something where artificial intelligence and machine learning, this is its bread and butter, really. So in the machine learning aspect, you would look at your historical inventory, you pull maybe some data from multiple sources, you build a model to try and predict what your stock levels should be. And so without applying and bringing some of that into it, you're limited as to what you could automate from a pure RPA perspective in say, managing your inventory. Another example, not very sort of exciting topic, but comes up so often, is extracting text from documents. So the whole digitization of documents, OCR, that whole topic is another area where there are traditional approaches that use things like templates. If one's a typical one is invoices, if you want to process 100 invoices, or you've got hundreds of suppliers sending you invoices, how do you handle that in terms of automation? And what you tended to find was people would look for the highest volume. Yes, I get 10,000 invoices a month, but actually out of that, and I have 100 different suppliers, each with a different format, but maybe the top 10 suppliers make up most of the volume. So that's a traditional approach. People would build templates. The limitation of that is if you have the opposite problem of many suppliers, but an even distribution of those. So when I actually need a solution that can tackle multiple different formats, what do I do then? And that's some area where UiPath as a company has invested specifically around invoices, purchase orders, and receipts in terms of building machine learning models that we've trained on thousands of examples. But also it's an area where we continue to expand that. We're looking for other people as well to contribute models, maybe third parties or some of our partners like consulting companies, to try and be able to build models that are relevant to their customer base and bring them to our platform to help us do things like extract data in a more intelligent way. So yeah, uncertainty, high variability, unstructured data, these are all challenges that we have in terms of automation, and to make our automation platforms more valuable, we need to be able to tackle these. So I've talked quite a bit about how RPA needs AI. Let me talk a bit about why I think AI needs RPA as well. When this was things, I basically, it was a journey for me to learn this. I thought of AI as the high value, the smart piece where you have your data scientists, and RPA is a little bit more dumb, to be want of a better word. What I found was, though, it's great having a predictive machine learning model, for example, that can predict whether something is fraudulent or not. But you're always going to need a business process, typically at the start of that and after that as well. So capturing the information, the data gathering, and maybe it's from multiple sources. These are things RPA, the robots, are traditionally very good at. They can feed that model. They can provide the data required for that model to make a prediction. And then also, once that prediction has been made, let's say this example of fraudulent transaction, yes, no, there's typically a business process after that as well that needs to be carried out. So to get a full an automation story or a workflow, you kind of need a combination of these two. And that is something that I kind of have seen is really when they come together, you're able to put together a much better end-to-end story and a far more valuable piece of automation for business users and a better customer experience. So that's the one key takeaway really is the intersection of RPA and AI, which people call IA, another acronym, intelligent automation. But that coming together kind of really adds value for both sides and allows you to solve more complex business problems. So let's look at one example and how we can kind of solve this. So banking example, customer here. It's a real example. How do we help a customer identify people who are about to leave the organization or leave the bank? This can be applied to any industry really. So the first steps around, well, you want information about customers who have left in the past. What were their characteristics, what defined them, and then you want to try and use that to make a prediction. So I think it's quite clear, a set of rules you could get so far, but it's not as powerful, it's not as scalable, it probably isn't going to give you the best result. So a better approach is to build a machine learning model, train your model on historical information about people who have left, and then use that to then predict, what is the likelihood of people or my current customers leaving, and give them a score. So that's effectively, what this solution was. Initially, you would use RPA for what it's very good at, logging into a CRM application and extracting information. Then it would interact with that machine learning model that was already being built to predict who's going to leave, who's not, and it would then update update the scoring around that. And then, like I was saying earlier, now there'd be, well, what's the action off the back of that? Those that are more likely to leave my company, I want to probably proactively reach out to them. And even those who are less likely, but there is a risk, maybe I want to send them a different kind of messaging. Maybe I offer a discount immediately to those who I think are going to leave, and maybe to the others I put them on some other kind of a program. So this is the kind of example of what you can do with this. And I want to go through how we would solve this in two different ways. So one way, we would use one of our technology partners. So I'm giving an example of a customer where UiPath has said, we're going to integrate with a third party. We're going to make it as easy as possible. But, Data Robot, which is the example here, we're looking at them as a best-of-breed provider of AutoML is what they do, the kind of automating the machine learning side. So we're going to basically allow users to interact with Data Robot. We're not going to try and recreate that great functionality in Data Robot within our platform. We're just going to make it as easy as possible to integrate. So the way it works is literally within our platform, UiPath, you have two activities: one to create your initial Data Robot project, and then another one to call that model to do the prediction. And the way Data Robot works in a nutshell is you feed it the historical information. It applies, I think, 50 or 60 different open source machine learning algorithms to try and find the best one. And then it will also then give you a choice, show you the results. You can then, with a couple of clicks, take that output and deploy it somewhere, which then allows you to call it as a prediction. So this is an example where UiPath has taken data from the outside, an AI provider externally, and brought it in. The other side is the flip side, and I'm going to just play a video, and this is about how we, within UiPath platform, bring machine learning models directly into the platform. Hopefully this will play okay.
Once upon a time, there was a dark, windowless room where a group of smart data scientists were working extremely hard to create machine learning models to move the business forward. They weren't appreciated for their hard work because whenever a business user came along, they could not easily deploy and use the models to solve their business needs. Back in their room, the data scientists had no clue if and how their models were being used. Meanwhile, in another far-off room, RPA developers had robots busy executing business processes. They worked exceptionally fast. However, sometimes they got stuck while performing the process, unable to progress effectively. They asked their fellow robots, but couldn't get a solution. Data scientists, business users, and robots were all missing something they needed to achieve their goals. That's where AI Fabric came in. AI Fabric, UiPath's machine learning platform, pulls together RPA developers, business users, and data scientists, connecting what would otherwise be separate, helping them work together better. It makes sure machine learning models are used in the right business context and that robots are smart enough to handle exceptions. With AI Fabric, data scientists can easily deploy, manage, and improve machine learning models, spending less time on DevOps and engineering and more time on business problems and use cases. RPA developers select an ML model and then drag and drop it into a workflow, making their robot smarter and enabling the ability to automate more cognitive processes. Now, data scientists know how their models are used in production, and RPA developers know which models are being deployed and when they have been updated. AI Fabric, designed to bring together RPA developers, business professionals, and data scientists for more effective RPA workflows. To learn more, check out AI Fabric on uipath.com.
So AI Fabric is really around allowing machine learning developers to be able to upload their models to a platform that the RPA developers can then interact with. And for the machine learning engineers, the data scientists, they upload it in a standard way, and that's it. They can forget about it. In terms of integrating it into the end application and the business process, etc., that can all be handled by the RPA developers. And from an RPA development point of view, they just have a access to these models in a sort of a drop-down list where they can kind of interact really easily with them. So that's one key area we're helping to kind of bring these two worlds together. There's just two other areas I want to cover, actually, just conscious of time as well. So let's focus on these two. One is visual understanding. So to make robots more robust and to allow them to work in environments like Citrix, where you are just looking at a remote screen, which is just an image, we've developed some technology to basically allow our robots to be more resistant to changes in the user interface and to be able to look at a screen and intuitively know what is a drop-down menu, what is a checkbox, what is a tick box. So we call that AI computer vision. And what that's basically, the way that's been built is training a neural network on high number of images of user interfaces that have been labeled. And the benefit of that is, rather in the early days of, say, test automation, you're almost go to a specific drop-down menu and go to item number 5 on the list. And as soon as that system changes, your automation breaks. With computer vision, we can be a lot more robust in terms of identifying the right elements on the screen. So we can use OCR and things like that to identify text, but also some intelligence to understand, well, the text box to the right of something with the label with the words we're looking for, let's say first name, the box alongside it is likely to be the one linked to that. So with a few different smart technologies, we've basically made visual understanding a way to really intuitively interact with a user interface, just like the way a human would, to making the robots more robust to things like changes. And then the other one I want to just quickly show is process understanding. So one question is often, where do I even start? So what we did was acquired a company called Process Gold, who are in the area of process mining. And with that software, you can let it loose on all of your kind of data sources, your logs and your databases. And if I hit play on this little animation, you can see that it can analyze all of your data sources and try and work out what your business process is. It can piece together where time is spent in that business process, and also give you really good candidates for automation, but also just improving the process itself and identifying bottlenecks or redundant steps. So by applying this technology, which has elements of AI in it, users are able to identify even where to start from an automation point of view. So that's another key example where AI is kind of enhancing this whole area. And also it's just a fun animation to sit and watch as well. One thing as well, you can always run this before you've done your automation and then rerun this analysis afterwards as well to help identify what's changed and the benefits. So just to wrap up then, I would say AI really is, it's AI plus RPA is really what opens up this whole world of intelligent automation, which a lot of the analysts are talking about. Hyper automation is another term you'll hear talked about now by Gartner and others, which is really around taking the full breadth of AI and RPA and applying it really end to end, right from where do I start to making your bots more intelligent, and also analytics at the end to say what are the results and the benefits I've got out of that automation. Sorry, that was a bit quick, but I think we just about got it done in time. Thank you.